All right, people, welcome to another episode of the Cyber Kill Chain. Today we are looking at the step 4, exploitation. And as you can see, we have stepped up our game a little bit on YouTube. So we have at the beginning of the video and at the end of the video, we have a short guitar tune. YouTube allows you to simply edit that. It's not a high effort. And also what we have now is somewhat fancy thumbnails created here in the Google Slides. So I'm not using Photoshop or GIMP or whatever. That's not my thing, but as you can see, we can simply create these kind of fancy things here. Yeah, but so far so good regarding the context or background. So exploitation. Let's real quick build our typical page first. So it goes here. Today is November 21st, and examples for exploitation. So I just adjust what we had. So what we want to do is examples for exploitation and obviously countermeasures. So it looks like the agenda is the same as last time. The picture is different. Let me grab the picture for exploits. I expect this video here to be not very, I think it's not eye-opening for anybody. So an exploit, we had this in the last episodes partially. Okay, so partially means we touched upon, let me jump back to slide 48 here. So you can see website, here's a download, that's a virus, and as you can see here at the bottom, malicious website, malware, download and install. That's also exploitation to a part. But it's always just important to see what is the focus. So here the focus was on how to deliver the stuff. Before that, weaponization also has something to do with with exploitation. You build the exploit into the medium. Into the media is the right word. Sorry. Yeah. But so what we have here is I opened some tabs on the side here in another screen, so we have a little bit of an idea what we want to do. After we have looked examples for exploitation, countermeasures, before we do all of that, we want to look at there's the definitions. Okay, definitions and terminology. So we will be looking at Fortinet. They have a nice website on that topic. They did a good job summarizing how do exploits work. Okay, and then within countermeasures, I would like to touch upon two explicit things here. Not just to stay general, but one is obviously patch and vulnerability management. Okay, this is one topic. And the other thing that you want to have here is logging and monitoring. Logging and monitoring SIM. So if we then have a little time, what we also can do is look at related MITRE attack. I think they write it with an end sign, but it's pronounced attack. So related MITRE attack techniques. I always confuse techniques and tactics. Let's see what it is. Yeah, so it is a technique that I want. Technique. All right, this is, I think, the agenda for today. Now that I'm looking at it, so the first three things are mandatory. The last three things are bonus. So these things here we will go through pretty fast, I think. And yes, as usual, don't be in a hurry if you start to watch that video. We are not in a hurry. Take your time. And yes, so now let's jump into it. I will be copying some of these aspects here. The first is terms, definitions, and terminology. Sounds boring, right? But don't worry, we try to. How do I copy it in such a way that I don't copy the format? Okay, so here let's do 20. Is that correct? No, 20 is too much. There we go. Definitions and terminology, a little bit to the right, like this. Nice. And now I need a source. It's here. And the source here will be Fortinet. And there will be a little bit to read this time. So, but it's a good starting point. So, first of all, I want to show you how these websites look like so that you get an idea what to find there. So this is obviously a vendor for these type of so one moment, I need this to bring to the front. So this is a vendor for vulnerability and for Fortinet. Let's see what products they have, but they have a lot of security related products, and as a result of that, they are pretty um, uh, good source to learn about these things. Okay, then let's see what they write. So first they say what is an exploit at the top here. Learn what security exploits are, how they are identified, and how to protect your organization. Yes, this is a little bit similar to our agenda that we had. Um, and now I will just step after step copy these things and we will read through them. Also, what I will do is I will grab one of those yellow markers here because this is again one of those reading sessions. As you can see here, I also created the title pages for the rest. So we have a little bit left to do here. Okay, so let's keep this here. We will need it in a moment. And let's simply read what we have here. So, exploit definition. With the explosion of computer peripherals, yeah, they start fancy. So peripherals, this is just all kinds of things that are connected to a computer, okay? Software advances, edge computing, I see. They use fancy words that you won't use in a daily job. Peripherals, I haven't used this. I'm not even sure how to pronounce that word. That already shows the relevance of it. Edge computing, ah, let's educate ourselves a little bit, shall we? So I have no idea what edge computing is, but this website allows you to click on, wait, yes, they give you, they anticipated someone like me not knowing what edge computing is. Um, and then they, yeah, but that's okay. So we will now look at uh, edge computing. Is that something like cutting edge, some very sophisticated things? Let's see. So I just copy it and we read together. So what is edge computing? We won't read a lot. We just need enough to have a little bit of an idea what it is. Okay, what is edge computing? According to Gartner, yeah, it's a good source. Approximately 10% of data generated by enterprises processed or produced outside of central data center or cloud. Is outside of the data center or cloud. And only 10% uh, or at the edge of a network. Okay. The amount of edge produced and processed data is predicted to reach 75%. Let me try to understand that. So approximately 10% of data generated by enterprises is processed or produced outside a central data center or a cloud. Only 10%, but what is outside? It's then it would be on your endpoints then, or at the edge of a network. Okay, the amount of edge produced and processed data is predicted to reach 75%. So it's 10% now, it will be 75. Understood. This edge computing definition refers to environments, devices, and processes that happen at the edge of a network. Okay, what is an edge? What is the edge of the network? The edge of a network refers to where the local network or its device interact with the internet. That's the edge. The outer border that touches the internet. It presents both a network security concern and an opportunity to speed up processing closer to or within devices at the edge. Okay, so you know what? We know what edge computing is. Let me tell you one thing. It's it's not what you encounter in your daily job. It doesn't matter. But we educated ourselves. It's okay. Then there has also been explosion of vulnerabilities open to exploit. Yes, this is we leave edge computing here. That's okay. That way we remember that we checked it out. But this vulnerabilities open to exploit. This is the connection that we want. So whenever we talk about exploitations, we have a vulnerability somewhere. You cannot exploit something that is not vulnerable. One example, if you have an old Windows XP machine, but you never connect it to the network, you just run some old computer games on it, but you never go onto the internet with it. It has no physical connection. It's just in your basement. Uh, it cannot be exploited. Even though Windows XP, if you connect it to the internet today, it will be automatically exploited by bots. So there's scanners. Scanning happens all the time. They will scan the machine within minutes, and within another couple of minutes, there will be automated exploits. That stuff exists. And so, yeah, but just example to vulnerability and exploit. You cannot exploit something that is not vulnerable. And even if you have unpatched software like Windows XP, the vulnerability needs always the connection to the internet too. So it's not enough to just have an unpatched system. It's also necessary that the system is reachable somehow. Okay, you always need multiple components of it. So yeah, so far to that. Okay. So let's see then. Edge computing I close now again, and now we just copy this now again, and here we will copy further screenshots. So we read the first sentence. How exploits work. I really like the job they did here. I'm not a big fan of fancy language, but that's my problem. Okay, it doesn't mean that it is something bad. Use fancy language. I mean there's nothing to say about that. Also, what I want to point out is this one right here. On Windows, you have to really press hard the button to initiate the screenshot functionality. But yeah, so this is a bit too big. I just wanted to have this as a small aspect here. So see, they have a global threat landscape report. Um, Let me know if you're interested in that. So I might try to download it. These are free, but you have to give them your email address and then they spam you. They ask you if you want to do business with them. So I see if I really want to do that. But the reports, usually by these cybersecurity vendors, they're really good. Another good one is, let me show you another good one. It's the CrowdStrike report. It's also really good. So uh, did I show you this already in last? It doesn't matter. CrowdStrike threat report. Yeah, threat 2025. Um, oh, that thing is just openly available. Okay, without email, without anything. I'm surprised. So that one we will read for sure. So look, this is here, and I will give you the source here as well. For this CrowdStrike report, I will give you the direct source. I don't know what it is with my mouse, but it is not responsive. I don't know what it is, but here is the. I will have to change the mouse pad, I think. Um, but we will do that. So here, this is the CrowdStrike report, and you can just download the PDF without anything. Yeah, so this tab I leave open. We will look into this. They have even a fancy picture here. Look at this. It reminds me a little bit of Dark Souls. So I used to play computer games back in the day. So a lot of people who end up in cyber were big computer gamers. Not I mean, I was not a big gamer of any. I was just playing casually, but I played a lot. I spent a lot of time with computer games. But look at these people here. It looks like cyberpunk, looks like Dark Souls. Reminds me a lot, especially this guy. Okay, off topic. Um, let's see. So we have threat reports. That's what I wanted to just point out that these are really good. But how do exploits work? Let's read this now. When developers produce an operating system, OS, nice, they pronunciate it, for a device, write code for software, or develop an application. These are the three main things. I like that. But, oh, I always have to put this, bring to front. So, operating system, writing code for software, develop application. Those are the three things that have vulnerabilities. Indeed. Hardware as well, by the way. They don't edit here the aspect that you can have flaws in your hardware. Inherent imperfections. Yes, it's imperfections, but you know what else it is? It is developers being corrupt. They get money by an agency and they purposefully add backdoors. So inherent imperfections, yes, they assume it's by mistake. It's on purpose often. These bugs can create a vulnerability in the system and exploit searches out such what? An exploit, sorry. An exploit searches out, so it finds such vulnerabilities and looks for a way to exploit databases and networks or systems. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. I agree. Databases, obviously, you want to get the data, networks, and systems. Absolutely correct. This is what it is. Here we have now good scope. So, what else does it say? If a bug is not reported and patched, it becomes an entryway. Yeah, so as you can see, they are using all the buzzwords that I would hope to see by a professional to cover when he talks about exploits. So patch management is a big deal here. That's why we will go into that. It becomes an entryway, so to speak, for cyber criminals to conduct an exploit. Absolutely right. With so many devices connected together in the modern world, as in the Internet of Things, well, here one thing to consider. I have no clue about Internet of Things. This term has showed up somewhere at the time when I studied, so I attended university. So it was 2000, 2011, 2012, somewhere around that year. This term Internet of Things has become popular. And I remember I had a job interview for a mini job, so next to studying, and they gave me a paper about the Internet of Things, and I was supposed to summarize that thing in the job interview. So it was one of those testing the smartness of somebody. So they really gave me a piece of paper. It was about Internet of Things. I had 5 minutes to read, and then I think another couple of minutes to summarize, and then I had to talk to them and explain what I understood from the paper. So this is the first time one of the first times I even saw this term Internet of Things. And in that job interview, I was pretty much forced to 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 deal with that topic. Otherwise, I would have not sit down and read about Internet of Things. I don't care. But in a job interview, it was a necessity. So this were the only like 5 to 10 minutes of my life where I really spent time with Internet of Things. Um, Let me know you one thing. I'm not a big fan of these terminologies. Same as cloud computing. Okay, so these words they came up. What does cloud even mean? On LinkedIn the other day, I read a meme. People are posting memes. I think they're confusing this with other websites, but it said cloud is just somebody else's computer. That's what it said in the picture, and then there was like a fancy face or whatever. So cloud is somebody else's computer, not more, not less. Still, the cloud word came up somewhere around 2005, I think, somewhere around that time. Um, and I guess the executives they were busy to call things by its name. Okay, that's a server, that's a mainframe, that's a workstation, that's a smartphone. But they didn't exist back in 2005. Yeah, smartphones didn't exist 2005, not on a large scale, anyways. But I think they got tired of this, so they said, you know what, let's call it cloud. And same with Internet of Things. It's the same thing. They got tired calling the products by its names. Oh, that's a printer, that's a I don't know, firewall, that's another thing. Or they just call it things now. It's just things. For my for my understanding, this is an oversimplification. Um, and the one thing that stands out also, the more people are reusing these terminology, the more it will stay in our society. So I would be really happy if thought leaders like Fortinet would just avoid using these terminologies. Okay, you don't need to call it Internet of Things. If you talk about a firewall, say firewall. If you talk about a network switch, say network switch. Call the things by its name. Okay, be specific. So Internet of Things, that lingo can stay in somewhere in the chief executive officer talks. Okay, they have no idea about technicalities. They are high in the clouds, literally. So that's why the word cloud is has arisen. Okay, so they are in the clouds with their thoughts. So as a result of that, they brought that terminology to us, more technical people, more feet on the ground people. So we are feet on the ground people, right? We don't. So fancy terminology. My recommendation to you guys, whenever you can, avoid fancy words. Just keep it simple. Okay, cybersecurity is complicated enough. We don't need to bloat it with over complicated stuff. Okay, enough rant about Internet of Things. Let's continue reading the sentence here. For example, an exploit does not just compromise a singular device, but it can become a security vulnerability for a whole network. Yes, of course, if you have one vulnerable device in a network, the entire network becomes classified as vulnerable. That's how things go. So let me drink a bit of coffee here. All right. So, yes, so we covered a little bit. Let me see on the website if I want to continue reading. So here it says types, groups, and categories of exploits. Well, let's continue a little bit, right? So because this might be the most educational part of this video, the rest will be a little bit of a freestyling. Um, so I like this here, but I want to get it on one page. I don't want to have it. Let's try to get it on one page with multiple screenshots because they are very um, lavishly using here the space. They have a lot of white space in between. So the link is still the same, but here, types, groups, and categories of exploit. Different types of exploits. I think this is very educational. I want to learn something too, right? So I wouldn't be able to tell you all the types of exploits from the top of my head, but one I named before, hardware. I was surprised that they didn't mention hardware here. They talk about operating systems, software, and applications, but here they mention hardware, so this is good. Okay, while I copy this together, feel free to read what is written under hardware, and meanwhile I will prepare the page. It won't take me long, I think, and then once I'm done, we will read through that. Okay, so they have here network, and I can feel the attention span suffering again. So we will have to do something in a moment. uh, add add a picture of a cat or something like this. Yeah, so let me see. This is a bit like this. Personnel. Yeah, so what we need to do then is physical site. I will squeeze it in here at the top right somehow. There we go. We'll squeeze it in here because we don't have to be pretty here. All right, this looks good. Yeah, I hope you're not. And I think we can even, but no, let's not do surroundings here. Okay, those are the categories that they give you. Now let's read them. I grab a yellow marker. There we go. I put the yellow marker. Oh, it is to front already. Good. Yep. Okay, let's read. First, let's start with physical side. It's at the top. On their website, it's at the bottom. So, physical side. Exploits can be conducted on site, and if deficient physical security or inadequate access controls exist. Yeah, physical security. This was what we talked about last time. Uh, walking right into the main entrance and being there physically. It's this stuff right here. Okay, let's copy that in. I like to reuse aspects, so it's this entry. Deficient physical security means the door is not locked. You can just walk in. There is no camera or access control. There is no guard standing there. Then, just as a thief can break in and steal, a cyber criminal can break in physically. Exactly, that's what we had, and conduct an exploit that compromises an entire network. Well, physically conducting an exploit, what would it be? You would have to somehow access a computer or a network. You see a network port, you stick in your device and you try from there to achieve something. Or an employee is on a coffee break and leaves the computer running, and then you could go to that computer, try to log in, or maybe it's not even logged off, and exploit like this. So this is really being on site. This is the most risky move, because if you get catched, you have to run. You are physically there. You are not behind 10 VPN or uh, Onion, Tor network. You're not hidden, so it's you. You have to run or they catch you, and this would be so that's risky. But on the other hand, I think people wouldn't expect the hacker to be right there physically. So maybe the risk is lower because of that. Not sure about that. But okay, that's fine. Then hardware. Hardware, to various degrees, must run on an operating system, whether it be a complex OS for a PC or a simpler OS for an edge device. Yeah, a simpler OS for edge device, this means like firewalls have operating systems, okay? As far as I understood now this definition, a firewall would be an edge device. Um, they have simpler operating systems indeed. Vulnerabilities on the operating system become entry points for an exploit, which can corrupt the memory or cause the device to freeze. Yeah, freezing would be denial of service, but you want to corrupt the memory. You want to get information. You don't want necessarily denial of service. There are simpler methods to achieve that. You want to get data. You want to manipulate data. You want to gain access. That's what they usually want. Okay. Then we have here software. Software bugs, a normal consequence of software development. Um, let's put that here again. So I want to really point out, and if there's one thing you take away from this video, people are evil. Software developers are evil. Same as with the facility management. Give him enough money and he will build in the exploit in that software and sell it to you and give you an instruction how to exploit it. Okay, so just be aware. It is a normal consequence of software development, yes, but it is a very, very normal consequence of people being corrupt, people not having professional ethics, or having money issues. If you really need the money, I guess you would do it, but this is what happens. Okay, so um, us who do the cybersecurity, our highest goal is to maintain professional ethics. Okay, so don't be corrupt, never take money to exfiltrate some data or to endanger the security of a system. You are being paid for, and your duty, your meaning of life, okay, is to create value and not to destroy things by exploiting them. That's my philosophy. That's my professional ethics, and I hope you can pick something of that up. Um, for me, it is a big, um, how can I say it? It is very satisfying to go home after a day of work and knowing that you did something good. Okay, and I don't think these people who break in, I don't think they have this kind of satisfaction at the end of the workday. Okay, I don't think so. All right, but now our attention span is a little bit. Let me copy a picture of a cat as usual. So this one is pretty cool. There we go. Let's copy it over here. All right, so now we can continue reading the network while looking at this cat a little bit. It's winter right now, so maybe I can pick up some winter picture next. Um, or maybe not. It reminds me of summer, and winter being reminded of summer is a good thing. Yeah. Okay, network. Each of the components of a network offers the possibility of vulnerabilities. Yeah, that's a very generic sentence. Each of the components of a network. Well, let me know a wired cable, a copper cable. usually has no possibility of vulnerability. Okay, a simple plain copper cable usually does not have stuff like that. There have been cases though where copper cables have been cut in half and a device in the middle has been introduced into that. Well, that happens. You have to inspect your cables, but if you can visually see the cable, let me show you. I need a LAN cable Cat7. Let me show you a cable here real quick. I mean, uh, there we go. This is how this stuff looks like. And so let me tell you something. If you can observe your cable like this from beginning to end, and it is not cut anywhere, like this one is cut at the end, and you see no visual defects, you can be sure that there's nothing wrong with the cable. But if there is a cut, and if these four smaller cables, they have been somehow tampered with, well, then you gotta be careful. But usually you don't have any of that. You have a connector at the beginning, then you have a long cable wherever it goes, and then you have a connector at the end. That's usually how it looks like. And so I just want to point out the sentence at all components. Nope, not at the cable usually. So whether hardware, software, or firewall configurations, yeah, that we can agree with for sure. Hardware, software, firewall configurations. Yes, so if the config of the firewall is flawed, it has too many open connections, it doesn't block enough. This is how you can get through. Okay, then some attacks that may be part of an exploit can be domain hijacking. Okay, so this stuff right here is again fancy. They just drop in the words domain hijacking. We can look these exploits up. Let me tell you, they are not very fancy. So domain hijacking is you have a DNS system. Okay, let me go into that. So because now that we mentioned it, DNS system. And I need just a picture of that to give you a good idea of what it is. So this is DNS here, and it is big enough. We don't need a whole big understanding here. But that's not sharp enough. Let me open it. Yeah, that's sharper now. There we go. This is how it looks. Let me copy the picture like this. And it's even a German picture, but that's okay. So just dump it over here. It's okay. So as you can see, you have a DNS server. And that DNS server is somewhere in your environment. This is what they mean by domain hijacking. If you can hijack this DNS server and one of your browsers says, give me the website, that's google.de, google.com. Well, the DNS server is supposed to give you an IP address, and that IP address then you forward to the web server and you can browse it on the internet. This is how DNS works. It translates a URL, a domain name, into an IP address. This is its whole job. If an attacker compromises this DNS server right here, it can give you any other IP address. It's not google.com. You think it's google.com, but in the end, it's routing you to a malicious website. This is what they mean by domain hijacking, okay? Then you think you are on Google, but you're not. You are on the website that looks exactly like the site you would expect, but it's controlled by the attacker. They have full control of the data that you type in there. If you try to log in, they will get it and so on. So be careful of that. But this is what they mean, domain hijacking. And it is over the network because these data here, these arrows, this is network traffic. And you don't even need to hijack the domain server, I just realized. You can hijack the connection here. That's enough. Man in the middle, classic man in the middle. So, but you can do both. The DNS server hijack would be called DNS poisoning. So you enter the table. There's a table between domain names and IP addresses in the domain, DNS server, and you can flood it with false entries, so the DNS server will forward any browser to the wrong website. This is what they mean here. Okay, and then you have personal. Even personal can be exploited. We touched upon that topic, and I'm happy that they have that here as well. Cybercriminals may target the devices and credentials by social engineering attacks, spear phishing. Spear phishing means a targeted email. Honey trapping. I don't know. I will not look up honey trapping. I know what a honey pot is. That's to catch criminals, but the honey trapping, I don't know what that even is. There's so many terminologies. You don't need all of them. I certainly don't want to read up that. Training access control are crucial to to mitigating this vulnerability. Training and access control, yes, exactly. So okay, we have now looked. There's a lot more on this website, so I would say go on that site and figure out some stuff yourself. We have looked at the basics now. Um, there's one thing I would like to point out though. Yes, one thing we will point out and then we move on, because here I found something that I disagree with. At least as far as I can tell from what I see here, I don't quite agree with that page. Let me show you. Look here, how to recognize an exploit attack. Because we have also planned today to look at countermeasures. And if I look at what I see here, I'm missing one very crucial thing. So, but for now, let's go through these things. So these are countermeasures now. We have jumped now from definitions and terminology. That thing is, I consider this to be done. Where is the text? This one, green. Let's do it friendlier green. Examples of exploitation we didn't, but now we go a little bit to countermeasures. Okay, let's go to countermeasures. How to recognize, that's what they do, right? How to recognize is part of a countermeasure. If you want to counter it, you have to see it first. Okay, these things that we can read here, let's copy this over here, is not wrong. Okay, none of that is wrong. Slow performance, absolutely right. Exploits, they do additional, they have additional load on the system. There will be slow performance, but not the smart exploits. The machines today are really fast. Okay, this was in the year 2000. You would have noticed. You had your Intel Pentium 4 processor with one core and 2.8 gigahertz. That thing was not very fast. If some exploit was running, you noticed. But today you have 8-core CPUs. Okay, you have 8 cores, 16 threads, and that's not even the top tier processors of today. That's not even what servers are running. Some AMD Opteron has 60 cores. Yeah, you will not notice a slow performance there, very likely. At least not with the exploits who understand what they're doing. They make sure that the exploit is not using too much CPU. You can tell the exploits, hey, just use 5% CPU, or build in some sleep parameters so that the exploit does a little bit of something, sleeps for 5 minutes, and then does a little bit of something. The hacker is not in a hurry, they have time. Okay, then you have, what is this? Frequent crashes or freezes. Well, that's interesting because this would be an unprofessional exploit. This means that exploit is not working. If it freezes the system, it cannot accomplish what it was trying to do. So this is also one of those no-brain moments where I would say slow performance, frequent crashes. This is not how you want to detect an exploit. At least don't rely on these things. Your system might be running perfectly fine and there is an exploit. It's not slow, it's not crashing or freezing, and there is an exploit. Don't rely on these things. We color them red now. We color red all the stuff that I would say is not very helpful. Unexplained changed settings. That's more like it. Unusual behavior. Yes, they are getting to the topic, but they are not naming it. Unusual behavior. Okay. Logging and monitoring is what I would get to. That's why we had it here. Here, logging and monitoring sim. This is what I would like to see here in how to recognize. You see it in the logs. Okay, but unusual behavior is pretty good. Can be annoying, homepage. What annoying? What is annoying here? Such as change default homepage, but they can be much more than annoying if caused by malicious software or unauthorized access. Yes, yes, yes. Those are the things. Tons of pop-ups. This is again something that when you have tons of pop-ups, this means you. I see the target audience here is your grandma. It's not the cybersecurity professional. The target audience here is an old person not into cyber. Yes, if you have tons of pop-ups, reinstall the entire system. Okay. Uh, one of my so my neighbor actually came to me at 15 years ago. It was and it says, "Oh, my computer is slow. Can you take a look?" And I looked at it, and I just tried to open the browser, and it had I I'm not exaggerating. It had so many toolbars that there was no open space left for the browser content. It had 15 or 20 toolbars from top to bottom. You could not use the browser anymore, and the computer was slow. It was booting or starting up 15 minutes. So I said, you know what? What did you do with that system? Oh, I don't know. It's over time. I was like, that's not over time. You could not even use that system anymore like that. So we uninstalled Windows, reinstalled it fresh, and it worked. But this is not what we bother about as cyber professionals. And then loss of storage space. Well, it's not, you don't lose storage space. It's just used by some application, but that's also okay. So I'm not happy with this, how to recognize an exploit attack. It's all correct, but my point is it's it's too late. Okay, if it's already slow performance, already crashes, pop-ups, storage space, if you notice that, it's way too late. It's game over. The attacker did what he wanted. So what we instead want, let me copy one of those bubbles here. This one, you want the SIM solution here. So real solution SIM or XDR they call it. Okay, extended detection and response. That's what you want. And we have a SIM here. For example, we have elastics. So I will, yeah, but I will not SIM. Let me get a picture of a SIM system. Yeah, so this is a good picture here. Like this. There we go. So this is what you want as a solution. Okay, so we will not continue reading Fortinet. So we've seen what we needed to see. Let's jump back now. Definitions and terms done. Examples of exploitation. Maybe we will see examples here. How to prevent. Yes, yes. I think we will read the examples because I don't want to look up another source for that. In the end, they're good enough. Okay, so examples. What is this? I need to look up into this mouse. Something is completely off there. And I can't really tell if it's the computer or if it's the application or the mouse, but okay, something is. Yeah, but here, examples, famous examples of exploits. Let's look at this. If they say they are famous, it saves us some time and some. Oh, and this says edge computing. Obviously, this is no longer edge computing, it's terms and definitions. One of the things was edge computing, I think. Yeah, this one. There we go. See, this is the stuff that you don't notice when you're talking too much. There we go. All right. So famous examples of exploits, same URL. So in recent years, there have been many well-known exploits used to initiate malware attacks and cause huge data breaches. For example, in 2016, Yahoo disclosed, and these are the cases that we might want to, let me mark that, we might want to research that ourselves. I'm not aware of it. prior, resulting in data leak. Yahoo 2016 data leak, not to be confused with data lake, which is also a word in our business, in our field. So data leak that affected about 1 billion of the users. Do even so many people use Yahoo? I never used Yahoo. It's okay. 1 billion is exaggerated, I think. Look, that's every sixth or every seventh person on Earth. That's a bit much. A weak and out-of-date algorithm had caused a vulnerability, providing hackers with access to multiple email accounts. Okay. Then a recent infamous exploit named Eternal Blue. I heard about that one, but I don't know what it is. I forgot what it is, but I read about this one. Eternal Blue. So at least it clicks. Takes advantage of a flaw found in the Windows Server message. Oh, SMB protocol. Sadly, the exploit was first designed by the national NSA, but was stolen and publicized by the Shadow Broker group. It has since been used in the NotPetya and WannaCry ransomware attacks. Yeah, and that's the thing. So sadly, the NSA is sometimes our main competitor. These guys are hacking. I mean, those are state-sponsored actors, we call them, and sadly, those guys are very good. They have nearly unlimited funding. So the NSA is scary. And also when I talk to colleagues about who are our opponents in this game, well, state-sponsored actors are not our opponents because there's nothing you can do about them, sadly. They can break systems that you think are secure because they simply, first of all, they hire the best people. That's one thing. The other thing is they have nearly unlimited budget. Okay, so the American taxpayers' money is limitless. Taxpayers' money in general is limitless, and if you can tap that without people going on the street and protesting, jackpot. You can do whatever you want, and that's what right now happens. So the US is successfully convincing the public, the taxpayer, that these spendings on the NSA, on the CIA, on all of these agencies, they convince the public that this is necessary. So they have the funding, and as a result of that, they play the cybersecurity game, and they play it very effectively. So compared to them, we are like kindergarten kids. Um, you can only hope not to be targeted by them. Okay, so much to that. I'm not going to go deeper on this whole NSA topic because there's no reason, because there's no solution to that. Okay, I like to talk about topics where I can show you a solution, like this one. Okay, how to recognize that, well, a SIM solution. But for this, there is no solution, not a real one. So not one that I can think of. So I don't like to talk about problems without showing what to do about them. Okay, what else do they say? More frequently, recently Equifax. I heard about that too, but again, I don't know what it is. Equifax. Okay, that mouse is slowly but surely getting on my nerves. I always notice when I try to precisely fit something. Here it doesn't work. I will see to it. I think it's I don't know. A credit reporting firm suffered a huge breach of data when hackers exploited the vulnerability found within the Apache. Yes, Apache. That was. And I showed you Apache in one of the videos. Just, I think this might have been one of my memories somewhere in the head. That's why in one of the slides we have Apache when we talked about web servers. Well, Apache struts. Yeah. That's something clicks here. So I read about it for sure. A patch was developed, but Equifax failed to update the compromised web application soon enough to avoid the breach. Yes. So this was that. All right, we have now examples for exploitation. Let's mark that as well. Where's the text? It's a nice color. Okay, now let's go into countermeasures real quick. So we mentioned SIM already, and these are then examples. this like this. And why is that here? It has to be here. Okay. The next thing we need is, let's take a white page. Let's talk about countermeasures now. And the only countermeasure and the only really good one and that works is a sim solution, and I will show you now one example based on elastic. Okay, log monitoring definition. We will just use that entire screen, I think, like that. And there we go. So you can read it, and meanwhile, wait, not quite. Meanwhile, I want to copy this. Why is here no source? Oh, it is. Meanwhile, I'll copy the source here, and that is here, the elastic. All right. So, but what do I want to show you with that? So, if you want to see vulnerabilities, you cannot see the wrong code yourself. You cannot look into every code, into every system, and be sure that it's patched. You can't do that. But what you can do is always detect suspicious behavior, because if there is a vulnerability and it's being used, you will see it in the logs here. And I just realized that I don't like the, wait a minute, let's copy it differently, because this screenshot here is not sharp enough for my liking. I want the sharper one. So this right here can stay here. And now I will zoom into that a little bit and try to get a better picture of this. Yes, I think this is a better picture. Copy graphic. Yeah, that looks much better. Now we put it somewhere here, a little bit bigger, I think. And this can go at the bottom maybe. Yes, so this looks good now. This goes a little bit to the top. This goes a little bit here. This looks good now. Now you can at least see something. And it's elastic. And what you can see here is that's just your typical interface, how you see event logs. Okay, has something to do with Kubernetes, but what they also mention here, and I like that. Let's read this a little bit. So it says find anomalies. And that's exactly what a SIM solution and the SOC. So it's a SIM and the SOC together. This is what they are supposed to find. And let's copy that picture again. So you have here SIM. It collects data from all kinds of sources. And then you have, let me add here a little arrow like this. And then you have a security operations center. I just find SecOps center. And then you have like this. Yeah, it looks even a fancy picture, but yeah, let me see. Yeah, this looks fancy enough. So then you have your SOC people right there. They have their monitors, they're monitoring these events of the SIM, and they then do a so-called triage. Let's find that too. SecOps triage. There is no good picture of that, but cyber triage. Yeah, cyber triage is actually is a name of a company, which is okay. So let's not have a picture then. Let's have a bubble, and then we call it incident response. This is also one way to triage and incident response. That's what you have here. Okay, this is what they do. And I think if I look for a picture for incident response, I might find some firefighters or so. Incident response. Yeah, no, we don't. But that's totally fine. We have enough visuals here. But that's the countermeasure. And if you look what they write here, so log monitoring is the process of collecting, analyzing, and acting on log data from various sources. This can include applications and infrastructure, so it will be the same list probably as we have seen here. Operating systems, software applications, same list. Then compute network storage. When developers and operational teams monitor logs, they are doing so to find anomalies. And I want to touch upon upon the topic anomalies. So it is not important to know the state, the patching state of each system. You want to do that too, obviously. That's one part of the defense. It's called patch management. But you never reach 100% of patched systems. That's normal. So instead of looking at what is the state of my system, you should continuously watch what are your systems doing. And if you do that, you will find anomalies. And if your web server all of a sudden is accessing data that it shouldn't, that's an anomaly. You will find it, and that way you can then see, aha, there must be an exploit running on that system. So you don't stop it at the very first step. So the exploit can live on a system as long as it doesn't do anything suspicious. You wouldn't see it with a SIM, but when the exploit kicks in, it starts encrypting data, it starts calling processes. You will see it here in the message, in the event data. You will have a timestamp here. You will know exactly when it happened, and then you can use the search here to do a triage. And this way, you can also have automated alerts for certain conditions. Okay, so this is what a SIM does. And in addition to that, it's not just SIM. Also, what you want is EDR and XDR solutions, like CrowdStrike. Okay, you want to have those. Um, uh, CrowdStrike Falcon. CrowdStrike Falcon is one of those solutions. Again, I'm not advertising, I'm not receiving money by these people, so I'm just showing you that kind of stuff because it has some relevance to it. So let's do it like this. Copy graphics, copy it here. There we go. It's a nice big graphic. We will add it at the bottom here because this where you have. This is now not a SIM solution. It's an EDR or XDR solution. It doesn't matter who collects or what technology collects the data. There is a fine difference between SIM and EDR, and they constantly battle each other. So EDR providers like CrowdStrike, they claim that you not need a SIM anymore if you utilize their solution. I think otherwise, but that's just opinions. In the end, I just want to see data being collected and effectively analyzed. Anomalies should be found, no matter if it's Elastic or Splunk or Microsoft Defender or this CrowdStrike. It doesn't matter what solution you pick for logging and monitoring, but these are countermeasures. Okay, and you see here endpoint, identity, cloud as well. Then you have some 24/7 expert monitoring. 24/7 simply means it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Okay, it's full time monitoring. There's no spot where nobody is looking and the attacker could use it. And here you have some buzzwords: correlate, enrich, hunt, investigate. Okay, correlation means these logs that you see in the background, they are correlated somewhat. Enrichment means adding some if you have an IP address, for example, what host name is it? If you have some cryptic usernames, you can see who is it in the company. So enrichment can have a lot of elements to it, but enrichment happens in the SIM as well, correlation too. Hunting happens in the SIM. Here you have a search interface. You can hunt as an employee, you can look for certain log events that you think are suspicious. For example, here you have messages at a certain time. Try to see what does the system do in the middle of a night, at times where you wouldn't expect it to work. Are there any interesting logs? And that way you can hunt. And investigation, of course, same thing with the search option here. So that's countermeasure. Yeah, let me know if you want to know more about SIM, because that happens to be one of my topics that I did a lot. Patch and vulnerability management. Yes, so let's do now a little bit about that as well. So I copy that page and we look about patch, and I just write vuln m. That's patch and vulnerability management. That's what it means, so don't be confused by that. You don't want to write out management all 1,000 times. Okay, then here I brought to you Tenable. Tenable is one of those, again, no advertisement whatsoever. I just want to show you how vulnerability management looks like. And here's a nice screenshot. Okay, so again, it looks like the elastic on the page before, right? Again, you have a page, it shows you some lines of entries, but it's fundamentally different. Those are events. Here in the patch vulnerability management, those are vulnerabilities discovered on your systems. And it has a severity rating. You see 21 vulnerabilities. It has some score. So it might be the typical CVSS score from 0 to 9, no, or to 12. So 9 is pretty much a pretty high score here. And then you can click on it and it gives you here CVSS v2, it's 9 out of 10. Yes, so it's quite a, in this case, a lot big vulnerability. It gives you a description to that. So it says the kernel package containing Linux kernel. It's a core of an operating system, and there's some stuff installed on that, and it's part of multiple vulnerabilities. And this example here is Red Hat Enterprise Linux. This is what this RHEL stands for. This is a way to detect vulnerabilities. Okay, what do you do after you detected this? Well, after that, you give it to the patch management. So can I have here a fancy curved? You know what? Let's do it simple. Oh, this is what I've been looking for. I think this. Okay, pretty cool. Pretty cool. So after you have this, you give it to the patch management. And here I want to point something out. Give it to the patch manager once you have, but that's not what I wanted to point out, of course. So you have a vulnerability, you give it to the patch manager, he patches the system, job done. Patch management is a whole topic, is a big topic. And there is, from the NIST, there are standards for that. NIST special publication 800 minus, well, I don't know what it is, so I just type in patch management. But not 53. Yes, Guide to Enterprise Patch Management. There it is. I give you the link, obviously, as well. There we go. The link will be here. And in a moment. So these are the standards that we would like to look into. And I just wonder how I can. I will just copy it like this. Like this. This is the NIST standard. And we will be reading standards on this channel too. So this channel is called Cybersecurity Standards, and I created this with the idea of with the simple idea of reading with you these standards, and they also look like this. So there we go. This is how they look like. I will just add a screenshot at the top here. Okay. So this right here is how it looks like. They have a number, special publication 800, then they have a minus, and the number after that, 40, for example, that's a topic. In this case, enterprise patch management planning, and R4 is revision. How many times did they rework that? So we will look into this, but this is the way you identify vulnerabilities. You give it to the patch manager, and the patch manager follows a guideline like this one. He needs to do a professional job, and those are examples how to do it. This is one part of the story, and if these guys fail to do the job, you have the SOC and the SIM, and they detect any remaining aspects then. Yes, that's what I wanted to show you. And I notice I'm running low on energy. So sorry for that, but if I look at the clock, it's just 1 hour, so this video is not going on too long. That's fine. Logging, monitoring, SIM, we covered as well. And related MITRE attack techniques for exploitation. Yes, so this will be our last part, and then we call it a day. Let's see. Look into MITRE attack. This is what we do here. Now I open MITRE attack on my other screen. So MITRE attack. Feel free to open MITRE attack meanwhile too, and try to find, while I look, you can try to find something too. Okay, so what we do here now is ideally, I just copy the whole stuff like this. We put it on the screen and we take a look together. That sounds like a plan. There we go. It's a little small, but I can read it so you can read it too. Make it a bit bigger, so we go to the very boundaries here. Yeah, that's good enough. So just go into full screen if you like. So what we just want to see here at the top now, reconnaissance we had last time, initial access we had last time. We are looking for exploitation. Okay, we look to that somebody is exploiting something. And if I see here, privilege escalation, yes, discovery, lateral movement, collection, command and control, we don't have the word exploit here explicitly. But execution, whenever something is executed, it's kind of an exploitation. And here you see the word exploit too. Exploitation for client execution. Let me look with Control F, the word exploit. Exploit for privilege, exploit for defense evasion. Yeah, so there are exploits everywhere. Exploit of remote service. Exploit here, exploit public facing application. That one might be interesting. Let me mark it down. Exploit, where was it? It was initial access. Here, public facing application. This is what we meant by a web server that has some vulnerabilities. So we will go in here now and we will look exactly at that. I will click here public facing and we will read a little bit about it. And I think this is a good way to deal with the topic. First of all, let's copy that. Oh, that was a bad copy. Again, let's copy that. Yes, and this should fit nicely on the screen. Yes, this is bigger and we can read it now. Again, I forgot to add the link. Do that, of course, as well. Even though by now you should know the link like this. And here we have another link. It's this one. So MITRE has a very nice URL system. So you can see T1190 is what we're looking now. Technique. So let's see, just as an example, this would be an example for an exploit. Let's take a look at that. Adversaries may attempt to exploit the weakness, and they talk about weaknesses as well. They don't talk about vulnerabilities. In an internet-facing host or system to initially access the network. The weakness in the system can be a software bug, a temporary glitch, or a misconfiguration. Yes, we call about vulnerabilities here. Exploited applications are often websites, web servers. Yes, Apache, we have seen that in the examples. What was the example again? Equifax. For some reason I don't remember these things well. So like SQL databases, standard services like SMB or SSH. So SMB is the Samba message protocols. It is some file transfer, SSH as well. Let's look it up what SMB means because I was not sure. Now SMB stands for, oh, it's not Samba, it's server message block. But there was some Samba stuff as well I confused that, but that's okay. SMB, I need to look it up now. Samba. Yeah, it was something else. I forgot about it. Not important. SMP. So administration management protocols like SM and Smart Install and any other system with internet accessible open sockets. So they're called socket. You typically say ports to that. And ESXi infrastructure. So this is virtualized hosts. Adversaries may exploit. ESXi is just a server. ESXi is the operating system on them, and they virtualize, they run Linux, they run Windows on them. You want to exploit ESXi because then you exploit everything that runs on it. Exposed Open SLP services. I don't know what Open SLP is. Let's not look it up. Um, they may alternative exploit exposed VMware centers. Yes. Depending on the flaw being exploited, this may also involve exploitation for defense evasion and the other stuff. Yes. If an application is hosted on cloud-based infrastructure, or is containerized, then exploiting it may lead to compromise of the underlying instance or container. Yes. Unless the container is fully encrypted, then not, but usually, yes. If infrastructure is compromised, the applications on top of it, the containers are too. This can allow an adversary a path to access the cloud or container APIs. Exploit container host access via escape to host, or take advantage of weak identity and access management policies. So escape to host, that's a fancy trick. That's a bottom-up approach pretty much. So you start in the middle of a container, exploit it, and then you manage a way to exfiltrate the host. It's like on the container ship. You break out of the container and then you take over the entire ship. Then adversaries may also exploit uh, edge network infrastructure. Here again, luckily we've learned today what edge computing is. So it's here they use it again. So we are not going to be confused in the future if we talk about edge devices. So it's your firewalls, specifically targeting devices that do not support robust host-based defenses. Yes, so firewall is not covered by host-based defenses. That's absolutely true, but it is covered by the SIM. So for websites and databases, the OWASP top 10, that's nice. So we will be covering that. So again, talking about standards, the OWASP top 10 just names you vulnerabilities that should be closed by now. And the CWE25, same thing. They just point out stuff that really should be closed these days. Those are not fancy things. Those are straight up simple aspects, but companies can read it up and make sure that they have at least covered these aspects. Um, the common-based, yes, it's the most common web-based vulnerabilities. Yes, so I think this was a good look into MITRE ATT&CK. Obviously, we can click on each of that, but I think that's good enough for the moment. As usual, let me know in the comments what you think about this little walkthrough here. We covered all of these aspects. There is a lot to cover. Okay, when you talk about vulnerabilities, one thing we will go into is the NIST standard. There are ISO standards on that. Um, I need to find out to what extent I can cover ISO standard. So let me show you one ISO standard. ISO vulnerability management. There's a standard for that. Um, ISO IEC. Yeah, so it's the specific guidelines for, it appears to be this one. Let me open up a few ones. yeah, this one appears to be... Look, I will just show you the ISO now, and on another screen. I just want to show you how it looks like. So this is how it looks, and this much I can show because I'm not disclosing anything confidential here. But these are also standards, and from the ISO, International Standards Organization, and they have vulnerability handling process. But as you can see, you have to buy that stuff. So this is 98. It's a Switzerland currency, so it's like $100, €100, $100, something like that. And they also have another one. Let me open that up. Information technology. Yeah, so they have another one. It's this. And I am not sure if we are allowed to buy one of these. If I can just buy one of these standards, obviously, of course I can buy that, yes, but would I be able to show you contents of it, yes or no? So here I need to read the license that you have here. Obviously we can take a look at the abstract. They have an abstract on this website, so the bare minimum we can look at, yes, but it would be interesting. So let me know in the comments if you would like to see that as well. There's a lot to cover, as mentioned, but for now I hope we managed to get a good and somewhat quick overview in roughly 1 hour and 15 minutes about the subject. And in the next video we will take care of, after exploitation, we will have installation, I think. Yes, so the next video we will take a look at will be, yeah, here it is also installation then. All right, people, then thank you a lot for your time and see you soon. Goodbye.